Dead Rising is a title and a franchise that came out back in 2006, and I remember the hype that was built around the original Dead Rising. Just this game, guys, that was just a lot of fun to play by yourself, that you were able to just mow down zombies with lawnmowers and things of that nature, and it was very unique in a number of ways. And then we've seen over time, guys, other games that have come out within this kind of similar genre, like Dead Island and so on. The list, it goes on, but Dead Rising kind of started this goofy type of zombie thriller action style video game. And I gotta say, guys, that we've had a number of Dead Rising games, but I think that over time there were just a number of issues that ended up arising throughout the course of the history of this game. And I want to talk about, the future here of Dead Rising. Dead Rising 5 in particular, a game that was confirmed to be happening and then got canceled. And, where is this game at this point in time, and when could we maybe potentially see this game or be able to play this game at some point or another. So let's talk about it, guys. According to the official Wikipedia page of the Dead Rising franchise, of course, Dead Rising, guys, going back, kind of just looking, we got to look at the past in order to kind of predict what might happen here in the future. So Dead Rising came out in 2006, as I said, guys. Dead Rising 2 came out in 2010. So a number of years later, and then Dead Rising 3 came out a few years after that in 2013, and Dead Rising 4 came out in 2016. So we have not seen another title in this franchise since 2016. So in an article written, guys, by J. Brody Shuri of Screen Rant, a new video goes into the troubled development of Dead Rising 5, revealing a number of issues that ultimately resulted in the game's cancellation. So a new video details the development cycle of Capcom's ill-fated Dead Rising 5, including some very deep-rooted problems that took hold behind the scenes, which sent the game to the grave just a few months after its announcement. The zombie-slaying, makeshift weapon crafting sandbox series had previously been a powerhouse franchise in its earlier years, spawning no less than 4 mainline games and even a tie-in film since it first burst onto the Xbox 360 back in 2006. So now, this all changed when Capcom attempted a 5th Dead Rising game in 2018. Despite initial optimism regarding the new sequel, this planned Dead Rising 5 would eventually be canceled a few months later, causing longtime series developer Capcom Vancouver to shut down and effectively ending the franchise for the time being. Since then, fans have been wondering what the new game would have entailed, as well as what circumstances caused the project to go so wrong so quickly. So really quick, guys, just give you guys a little bit of some, backstory here as to me with Dead Rising. I played the first game. I enjoyed it for what it was. Kind of got old after a while, in my personal opinion, but I enjoyed and I appreciated what it was. Then moving to Dead Rising 2, I enjoyed that one as well, but once again, I just feel like it kind of failed to evolve in a number of ways. Sure, having new weapons, new ways to hack and slash the different zombies was pretty cool. It was very refreshing, but then once we got later in the series, into Dead Rising 3, Dead Rising 4, that's where things kind of, for me, it got just too stale, and it just didn't evolve enough in my personal opinion. Now, do I want to see another Dead Rising? Absolutely. I think Dead Rising, guys, should coexist with other games in kind of within this genre of games, because Dead Rising was kind of like one of the first to do it, and I really think that there still is a very solid fan base behind Dead Rising if it's done well. So Liam Robertson, Game History Secrets, has provided some insight in these previously unanswered questions in a recent video that was posted on the Did You Know Gaming YouTube channel. Robertson details the history of the Dead Rising franchise, including the chaotic development of the ultimately unreleased 5th installment. Apparently, Dead Rising 5 would have starred Dead Rising 2 lead Chuck Green and his now grown daughter Katie, who would have psychic abilities due to her continuing zombie infection, as they battle a drug cartel and another zombie apocalypse in a setting far more vibrant than past titles. So that sounds pretty great, more vibrant. However, at the helm, a completely inexperienced team was, and licensing issues arose over the game's planned use of Unreal Engine 4, which ultimately led Capcom to pull the plug on the game altogether. Even before the disastrous development cycle of Dead Rising 5, the series had already begun to enter rocky territory with the wildly divisive Dead Rising 4, which was rushed through production for a lackluster release in 2016. And I gotta say, guys, whether you liked Dead Rising 4 or not, I was not a fan whatsoever of Dead Rising 4. However, I know some of you did enjoy it. Critical reception was mixed, and many fans disliked the game's even goofier tone and the fact that several key components from past entries were stripped out, such as the tension-inducing time limits on the campaign that defined Dead Rising as a series. The finished product ultimately sold so poorly that 1/5 of Capcom Vancouver staff had to be laid off prior to the official announcement of Dead Rising 5, with the studio being shuttered shortly thereafter. What's interesting to me, though, is why Capcom even moved forward with Dead Rising 5 if they were already having to lay off people for Dead Rising 4. Very interesting. The one thing for me, guys, to me, I didn't like the even goofier tone. Sure, there were a lot of components, guys, that were missing from the other previous entries, like the first couple of games in the franchise, but I didn't really like the goofier tone. I thought that, there would be more of a seriousness as the series maybe progressed from, sure, it's good to have goofy elements to it, but I think if they would have taken the approach of having more of a more serious tone at certain, throughout the course of the series, I think it would have been a lot better off. Now, this certainly wouldn't have helped the game's ultimately ill-fated development cycle, so it may be best that it simply never came to fruition. Perhaps Dead Rising 5 could have turned the series around due to its more colorful setting and interesting story, but the project was sadly not to be. And honestly, guys, I don't think that Dead Rising 5 would have turned the series around. Sure, it takes one game to take you into the dark ages of an IP, but then all it takes is one game to bring you right back to where you kind of left off into a really, good place. But I just don't think, guys, that it wasn't meant to be. Dead Rising 4 just did not do well. They were already laying people off. It was kind of dead on arrival. And so I think the Dead Rising, 5, if it does come out, it needs to be with a new publisher, a new development team. I think the IP should be sold because I think that there's a lot of developers or publishers out there that would certainly buy this IP from Capcom and would love to kind of breathe fresh life into this franchise. Now, one day it can be hoped that the Dead Rising franchise might be rebooted to new success. For now, though, all fans can do is check out the story of the troubled Dead Rising 5, a saga that has seemingly killed off Capcom's once well-regarded series with a blow that not even the undead could weather. So, look, at the end of the day, guys, I'm not going to say that there's no way that Dead Rising 5 could come out at some point. I do believe personally that the way that it's going to happen is if Capcom sells the IP or they decide to do some kind of remaster or something for the Xbox Series X and for the PlayStation. If they decide to do something where it's like a remaster of the games and see kind of what the general reception is from people about the remaster, and then they can maybe greenlight another, Dead Rising title. I just don't know if I can really see it happening at this point. I certainly want to, guys. I absolutely do. I just don't know. The fact of the matter is, though, is that Dead Rising was still on their minds even after, they shut down Capcom Vancouver. It was on their minds, and there's been rumblings and talk that they want to bring it back. Just how are they going to do it is kind of the ultimate question at this point. If you were to ask me, guys, the reason why what I'd like to see happen, I would like to see Dead Rising 5 to take a much more serious approach. I like the concepts, guys, and sure, the concepts of Dead Rising, what, built this game from the beginning, are kind of goofy in nature, running over zombies with, lawnmowers and such. Obviously, kind of a goofier setting and tone, but at the same time, I think that the story itself could be much more serious, where you become more invested in the characters and things of that nature. So, where's Dead Rising 5, guys? I believe that at this point in time, it is in a limbo state. It is in a state that could be of no return, but I do believe that a lot of times when a title goes into a limbo state, it really comes down to the community. It comes down to us as a community, voicing our opinion to the developers, stating that we want, another game in this franchise made. And if you have enough people that are doing that, a lot of times these developers will start to look at those things and at the very least could maybe put together a remaster pack or something that they release, and then we're able to play all of those games in a remastered kind of way, and then they can kind of green light another Dead Rising 5. Or if they decide not to, they might think that there is still obviously a solid fan base around Dead Rising. They may just want to sell the IP to the highest bidder and go from there. But at the end of the day, guys, I think that we are going to have to wait, and I'll be sure to give you guys more information as it comes out on the future of the Dead Rising franchise. Let me know, though, in the comment section down below, what do you think ultimately happened here to Dead Rising? Let me know, and for more Dead Rising 5 content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.